All right, so we're going to be learning tonight Daf Kuf Yud Aleph, and as well Daf Kuf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. And we're going to wrap up just to the top, on the top two lines of Kuf Yud Beis and Beis. It's a fair amount of material, but I believe it will move at a reasonable pace. And we'll try to keep to our average of 17 minutes an Amud or less. So let's get started. We're right now on the bottom of Kuf Yud Amud Beis. We're about 5 lines from the bottom at the 2 dots in the middle of the line. We spoke yesterday about jaundice and about a woman who's a zava in various ways and various ingredients and cups of beer, etc., in order to remove some of these. And yesterday we spoke out probably near a dozen ways for a woman to remove her zava, the actual zava bleeding. And today we're going to be focusing a little bit on the jaundiced, those who are suffering from jaundice, but a little bit of a side aspect, which is that, as we saw yesterday, that the food that these people were drinking would cause for impotence. It would cause for them to be infertile. And that's a halachic issue. We don't loosely allow people to have birth control. It's always done as a shaila. We don't allow people to violate those halachos. It's like a bitul aseh, according to some Rishonim, if someone flippantly, without a psak, is using birth control. So some of these shailas are connected to some of these sugyas. Let's get started. Says the Gemara, li'arkona, for someone who has jaundice, train b'shechro me'aker. We said yesterday that they should be drinking 2 cups of beer with these ingredients included, the alum and a bunch of others, but it can cause for impotence. And it says the Gemara, well, wait a minute, how is that allowed? Umi shari, is it permissible? V'hatanya, we have a brisa that teaches us that it's not allowed. Minayin l'siris ba'adam shu aser. How do we know that it's aser for a person to be mesaris themselves, to cause themselves to be infertile? Talmud lomar v'arsechem lo sasu, that in the land you should not do. And the drasha is bochem lo sasu, in yourselves you should not be doing that. You should not cause for yourself to be infertile. You should not be taking these medications that are going to cause for that to be Reb Chanina. So says the Gemara, how do we answer this question? Very strange answer. Says the Gemara, Hani mili heicha dekamechavin. Well, it depends. What's the reason why you're drinking this beer with these ingredients? It's because you're jaundiced. It's not because you're interested in being ma'aker. You're not interested in being mesares. What nevach, you're jaundiced, so this is what you need to do, so that you're taking the medication. It's just, it happens to be a side effect. So that's what the Gemara is saying here. Hani mili heicha dekamechavin. That's only usher when it's your intention. However, hacha me'atzmahu, here it kind of happens on your own. The Amar of Yochanan harotza she'asaris tarnagol. Rabbi Yochanan teaches a din that if one wanted to be mesares a tarnagol, they wanted to make their tarnagol be incapable of having children, yitol karbalto umistares me'elav, you should remove a part of the animal called the crest, not related to reproductive organs, but you should remove it, and then umistares me'elav, and then automatically it will happen. Says the Gemara, no, that's not medical. That's not infertility. That's not what's happening here. Why? How do we know that? We're right now on the last line, Kufyudam Beis. Ramos ruchahu dinakitale. You've made the animal depressed. Look at the very last line of Rashi. It's in the middle of the Dibur Hamaschel B'Ha'amar Rabashi. It says, "Umisabel, humisabel. He's in mourning. Ve'eno meshamesh. Aval b'sirus afilu memela aser." So the Gemara says we don't accept the answer of it's just your kavana, and therefore one is allowed to take this medication. That's not a good answer. Namely, you can't say that it's about kavana, because if it's automatic, we'll use the language loosely of psik reshe, like we would have by Shabbos. If it's an automatic result, so then that's not a heter to be mesaris oneself. Even if it's to get rid of jaundice, you got to find another solution. It's not mutter. So then says the Gemara, yeah.
By the tarnagol, but your intention there is to be causing it to be infertile. So it's not really a kavana, it's a matter of whether you're directly doing it or not. So it's almost not even a direct comparison anyways. In one case, we're saying it's because of the kavana, in the other case, we're saying they're not directly doing it. 2 different reasons.
But your motivations, that's true what you're saying, but in regards to the tarnagol, the karbalto is not a reproductive organ. You're taking off a different part of the body, and it's happening me'atzmo. So that's the comparison, because if you look back at the Gemara's answer 1 line above, 3 lines from the bottom, it says, Hanimili heicha dekamechavin, but hacha me'atzmo. It's on the me'atzmo part. You're right that the kavana is different, and maybe we, according to your understanding, would have to touch the words Hanimili heicha dekamechavin. Maybe what the Gemara means is that it's more of a direct action, right? Is, you're doing something that's very direct to the organs themselves, tying the tubes, as it were. So it could be, but either way, your ha'ara is well stated. But either way, the Gemara assumes that when you remove the karbalto, that it's an indirect action, and there's just a side effect that the animals don't procreate. But the Gemara rejects this anyways, because at the end of the day, we see that it's not an infertility issue. It's just that the animal's depressed when you remove the karbalto. So therefore, it's Ramos Rucha. It has a very low interest in Tashmish Shemitah. So that's why it has no children. So then the Gemara pivots and says, what?
Low self-esteem.
Yes. So then the Gemara says, fine, we can't say it's about kavana. It must be that our Mishnah, which seemingly allows for one to take this medication, it must be that our Mishnah is talking about Bisaris, someone who's already infertile. So then says the Gemara, but wait a minute. Amar Rav Chia bar Abba, Amar Rav Yochanan, Hakol Modim, turning to the top of Kufir Aleph Amar Aleph, everyone knows that in regards to korbanos, when one brings flour for a korban mincha, it can't be leavened. And if there's multiple stages of leavening, then there's multiple isurim of leavening that bread. It's not allowed. And that's based on two psukim, shenemar lo se'afeh chametz and lo sa'aseh chametz. And not only is there an isur doraisa there of mechametz achar mechametz, but here too, b'mesaris achar mesaris, 3 lines down, shehu chayev shenemar umoch v'chasus v'nasuk v'karus. So we have a pasuk that also tells us that there are various levels of sirus. And because of that, you can't say that, like you wanted to say, that the reason why you're allowed to take this medication for jaundice, even though it leads to impotence, is that the person's already a saris. That's not an answer, because saris achar saris is also asur. Says the Gemara, im lo karus chayiv, im al karus chayiv, if and only partially severing the beitzim, even if only partially severing the testicle, one would be chayiv, al natuk, then on detaching it entirely, lo kol shekain. Why does the pasuk delineate various stages? Doesn't make any sense. Ella, what does it come to teach you? Lahavi no take achar koresh yuchayv, comes to teach you that there are various phases of a karus, of losing a beitza, and because of that, there's an isser of being mesaris achar mesaris. So that means the answer can't be like it said on the last line of Kuf Yud Amud Beis, the reason why you can take this medication is because it's a case of a person who's a saris. That's not an answer, because you can trigger a second isser d'oraisa with another episode of drinking this liquid. So the Gemara tries yet again. The Ela Bezakin, maybe it's an older man. He's no longer having kids. Says the Gemara, but what does that mean? Men and women are not the same. By a man, he can regenerate healthy zera to a very old age. By a woman, the eggs that she has only are from birth, and they do grow, but she doesn't get new eggs. So the anatomies are just different. So I don't understand. So it says the Gemara, a man who's old could return to his youth and impregnate a woman. Says the Gemara, you're right, Ela Be'isha. Maybe the reason why it's permissible for someone to drink this liquid, which causes impotence, maybe that's only true by a woman. Wild Rashi. Really, it's based on an inference of the Gemara. But take a look at Rashi. Dibur hamaschil ela be'isha, 2 inches below where we are. Rashi says, Dibur hamaschil ela be'isha she'enu mitzuve b'pirya v'rivya. Wow, that the reason why a woman would be allowed to cause impotence is because she is not mitzuve in the mitzvah of pru'arvu. Think about the implications of that. If a woman is allowed to do something to herself, what about her husband? Can she put in an IUD, an intrauterine device, to prevent conception against her husband's desires? Because she's exempt. Can she drink this for the sake of her being Yeroka, that she is jaundiced? A lot of fascinating applications could come out about this from this type of question. So the Gemara answers Be'isha. So then says the Gemara, well, wait a minute, not everyone agrees that the mitzvah of pru'arvu only applies to men. Well, the Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka Damar al Shnehem, who Omer, that the pasuk is really referencing both men and women, because what does the pasuk say? By Varach Osam Elokim, by Yomer Lehem Peru, or he says to them, Michael and Meimar, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, both men and women are shaykh to the mitzvah of pru'arvu. So your answer that a woman is what our Mishnah is talking about, and that's why she can drink this thing which causes impotence, that answer doesn't work according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka. So therefore, the Gemara says, Bizakena. We're talking about a woman who's postmenopausal. She's not able to conceive, and therefore, by her, if she's jaundiced, she's able to drink this particular liquid that would help to get rid of the jaundice, to lower the bilirubin. Inami ba'akara, or a woman who is infertile, who has primary infertility to start with. She has no ovaries, whatever the case is that makes her an akara. And that's what the Gemara concludes, that we're talking, the Mishnah that allows for a person to drink this liquid, which causes for impotence, is only true of a woman who is a zakena, she's postmenopausal, or she is an akara. But a man would not be allowed to drink a drink that causes for dangerously low sperm counts. Whatever foods would lead to that, that would be us, or even if it's solving a primary issue of him having bilirubin counts that are too high.
Would that also be, those days they had more than one wife. So by her stopping herself, she's not necessarily stopping him.
Conceptually true. Conceptually true.
Today it'd be different though.
Right. That's conceptually true. It may be that under all circumstances she's allowed to do it because she herself is not mitzvah. Could be, even if there's only one way. Could also be, and that's implied from the Gemara.
She's stopping her husband.
It's not mefurish.
It's causing her husband not to stopping him.
Yeah, but the Gemara says that that's the Havamina of the Gemara, is that she's allowed to do that. We reject it, but that's the Havamina.
Yeah, because the Havamina is because they had other wives, so they were.
That's not what Rashi says. Rashi just says she's exempt from Pru'arvu. Doesn't say that. So that doesn't mean she's not married. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean that there's 5 wives. We don't know. You're adding to the Gemara. It could be that you're I don't know. You're adding. Okay, so the new Mishnah opens with another halachic issue about medicines on Shabbos. Let's continue. The Mishnah writes, "Hachoshesh b'shina," if someone who has pain in their teeth, lo yigma bohenes hachometz, they should not swallow vinegar. Aval metabel hu kedarko, but one can dip let's say dipping bread into vinegar. That's fine, and you can just like you normally would at a meal. Nisrape. If it helps, then great. But you can't swallow it directly because nobody takes a swig of vinegar unless one would have a toothache. Hachoshesh b'masnav, if someone's legs hurt, they're in a lot of pain, their legs hurt. Lo yisoch yain v'chometz, you cannot anoint yourself, you cannot put wine and vinegar on your legs. Aval sachu es hashemen, but you are allowed to use oil, but not all kinds of oil. Below shemen vered, you're not allowed to use rose oil because that was only for bnei malachim. Bnei malachim sachin shemen vered al makosein. But if you were, born with the silver spoon, you live in the castle, you're in the king's family, so then you are allowed to use that. Shekain darchan lasuch b'chol, because that's what they would use normally. Implied from the sheets of the Tanna Kama is if you have something that nobody else would use for medicine, but you do, l'chora, it should be permissible for you to use on a customized basis. Why don't we say that there's a general rule that applies to everyone? We've had this idea before, but la daito etzel kol adam. Here, clearly, the Tanna Kama doesn't hold that way. The Tanna Kama holds that for the peasant, for the average person, they're not allowed to use shemen ve'er. For bnei malachim, they are. It's very interesting that the Tanaim here don't distinguish. Nevertheless, the Mishnah concludes, Reb Shimon Omer Kol Yisrael bnei malachim, he's more lenient. We are all considered bnei malachim. Namely, we can use all forms of shemen, even shemen ve'er, even rose oil. Opens the Gemara, Rami le Ravacha Aricha, Tehu Ravacha bar Papa, Ravacha Aricha, who the tall one, Ravacha who was tall. So his actual name was Ravacha bar Papa, and he asked a question, a Rami. He asked from another Tanaic source against our Mishnah, Le Rabbi Abba, and he said to Rabbi Abba as follows: Tanan, our Mishnah writes, Hachoshesh b'shinav lo yigma b'nes hachometz. You're not allowed to take a shot of vinegar to help your tooth. Lememra. What is implied from this line of our Mishnah? The chometz mala l'shinayim. It's implied that the type of medication that one would use to help their teeth is vinegar. Now, that's pretty obvious from our Mishnah. But if that's the case, asks Ravacha Aricha, but what does it say in Mishlei? In a negative connection, we see the negative link between vinegar and teeth, between smoke and eyes. So then the pasuk seems to say that vinegar is the opposite of helpful for teeth. So which one is it? Is our Mishnah right, or is the pasuk in Mishlei right? Says the Gemara, Lokashia ha bekiyuha deperi ha bechala. It depends which type of vinegar. The pasuk is speaking about kiyuha deperi. Take a look at Rashi to the right, 1 centimeter up to Bramaskal kiyuha yayin shaloni spashel kol tzorko, wine that is not really fully ripe be'anavav in its grapes, kasha l'shinayim. That type of vinegar is the pasuk in Mishlei bad for your teeth. Ha bechala, but here with regular, fully finished vinegar, that's actually good for your teeth. V'bay sema ha bechala. Maybe you could say that both Mari Makomos, the pasuk in Mishlei and our Mishnah, are both talking about regular vinegar. Ha de'ika maka ha de'leika maka. It just depends if you already have a wound on your in your mouth or on your leg, wherever you're using the vinegar. Ika maka mase, if you have an injury, then it's helpful to you. Leika maka marpe. And if not, then it's going to be problematic. So it says the Gemara, continuing right halfway down, a little bit more than halfway down, Kuf Yud Aleph, Amud Aleph, Lo Yigma Ben Asachometz. We said that one is not allowed to swallow oil, but wait a minute. Veltanya, excuse me, Veltanya, we have a brisa. What does the brisa write? The brisa writes, Lo Yigma Upolate. You can't drink and spit it out. But you're allowed to drink vinegar and swallow it. The only limitation is if you like using mouthwash, you swish it around in your mouth and then you spit it out. If that's what you're doing with the vinegar, that's Dvarim Brurim, that's clear that why you're doing it. But why can't you swallow it? Why would you not be able to swallow the vinegar? Amar Abaye, you're right. Our Mishnah should have that language. Tnan Nami Masnisa. When our Mishnah was taught, it should have read Megame Ufolate. Tnan. The limitation with vinegar is when you are swishing it around your mouth and you spit it out. Ataka would be mutter to swallow the vinegar. Rava argues. Rava Amar Afilu Tema Megamu Valea. Even if you were to swish it around your mouth and swallow it, it would still be problematic. Kan lifnei tibul. Here is before the meal. Kan la'achar tibul. Here is after the meal. Namely, before the meal it's permissible. Rashi highlights this explicitly, but after the meal you're not allowed. So then the Gemara says, wait a minute. B'neima, would we say midalifnei tibul shari ba'achar tibul nami shari? We should have argued that if it's permissible before the meal, then it should be permissible after the meal too. What's the difference? After all, the Shaminan Leila Rava himself taught the following to Islay Hoil, that we have this principle called Hoil. Hoil is an idea that is used in a variety of different places in halacha. And what Hoil means is that if you're allowing something in scenario X, you should also allow it in scenario Y. So how does it play out here? Da'amar Rava says, Leika midi de b'Shabbos shari, uvi Yom Kippur maser. There are no scenarios where on Shabbos something is permissible, but on Yom Kippur something is not. So we're not talking about the Chamesh Sinuyim. Of course, those are all usher on Yom Kippur, and most are permissible on Shabbos. But why in regards to general malachos? Why is it that we have this rule by Shabbos and Yom Kippur? Here's the key line: Hoil, because de b'Shabbos shari b'Yom Kippurim nami shari. Since something is allowed in X, it should also be allowed in Y. So asks the Gemara, in the name of Rabbi, I don't understand. If you're saying that it's mutter to use this vinegar prior to the meal, lifnei tibul, before the meal begins, then Hoel, that it's mutter then, because Rava holds of Hoel, we should apply Hoel here as well. And Rava should say that because it's mutter before the meal, it should be mutter to do after the meal as well. Great question from the Gemara. Answers the Gemara, you're right. Hadar be Rava mehach. Rava retracted his shita. Now we don't know what this means. We don't know what he retracted. Did he retract his shita? His answer that we see 6 lines up, starting on the line where he says afilu tema megamu v'le. Is he going back to that level, or is he rejecting Hoil? So says the Gemara, mimai demehach hadar be. Maybe he really was retracting Hoil, and he wasn't retracting his initial answer that he gave in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, lo salka daitach. You cannot assume that he rejects the shita of Hoil. Why can Rava not reject Hoil? Because the Tanya, the Brisa writes, Kol chayve tvilos tovlin kedarkan bein b'tisha b'av bein b'yom kippurim. He allows for anyone who has any chiyuv to go to the mikvah, we allow that person to go to the mikvah kedarkan like they normally would, bein b'tisha b'av bein b'yom kippurim. And without getting into the weeds here, this is based on the principle of Hoil. So Rava can't argue that there is no Hoil, and therefore that's how we know that Rava was Hadarbe. So Rava rejected his own initial answer, but embraced the idea of Hoil. Nevertheless, we're left with the initial answer of the Gemara of Abaye, that we are allowed to change our Mishnah to include that one is taka allowed to swallow vinegar. They're just not allowed to swirl it around their mouth like they would with mouthwash. 5 lines from the bottom. 5 lines from the bottom on Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. Good. Says the Gemara, Choshesh b'masnav, someone whose legs hurt. Amar Rav Abba Bar Zavda, Amar Rab halacha kirib Shimon. Rav Abba Bar Zavda said in the name of Rab, and it's key here to follow the lineage, because we're going to be following the last person in the lineage, because this is who they learned it from. They learned it from Rab. And it seems to be, says Rav Abba Bar Zavda in the name of Rab, that the halacha is like Reb Shimon. And let's see what that means. What does it mean the halacha is like Reb Shimon? Halacha is like Reb Shimon, the last line of Reb Shimon in our Mishnah. If you just keep a finger here, look up at the end of our Mishnah. What does Reb Shimon hold? That all of the Jews are considered to be like Bnei Malachim, and they're allowed to use therefore Shem and Vered. They can use the rose oil. So it says the Gemara, the Memra, wait a minute, does that imply the Rav to Reb Shimon Sfirle that in general, Rav holds like Reb Shimon in regards to Davar Sheni Miskavein, that Rav Shimon holds mutter, in regards to Malacha Shen Tzricha Legufa, that Rav Shimon holds that you're pater? Does he hold like him always? That can't be, because the Amar of Simi Barchia, Mishmei de Rav, we learn that Rav holds that in the following case, hi, Misuchraisa denizaisa. Take a look at Rashi. What does that mean? The last Rashi on the page, 2 lines from the bottom. Dibur hamaschil. Hi Misuchraisa. Beged. It's a piece of cloth. Korchen bebarza chavis shel cheres. You put it in the faucet of a barrel that's made out of pottery. Mipnei she'ein hanekev shave, because the hole wasn't made perfectly. So what you would do is you take a cloth and you jam the cloth into the spigot to make sure that it wouldn't leak out. However, what did Rav say, turning to the top of Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph in regards to this beged that was used to be a stopper? Aser lehadukya b'yom hatava. Rav held that it's aser to use that. What does that mean? It means that he clearly doesn't hold of the shita of Rav Shimon that davar shein miskaven is mutter. So how can you say in the Gemara that Rav holds like Rav Shimon in general? That's not true. Here we see that Rav doesn't hold like Rav Shimon, because here he does not hold about davar shein miskavein being mutter. Otherwise, he would have said it was okay to put the beged as the stopper. So answers the Gemara, behahi, no. In regards to the stopper that's being used to prevent wine from leaking out, there everyone agrees. I feel Rav Shimon mode that even Rav Shimon would agree that there's no davar sheni miskavein mutter. That he would agree that you're not allowed to put it in there, even though your intention is not to squeeze liquid. Why would he agree? Second line, Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis, da Abaye v'Rava da Amri Tarvayu, because both Abaye and Rava hold mode Rav Shimon b'psik reisha v'lo yamos, because even Rav Shimon would agree that the idea of davar sheni miskavein, that when you're doing one act with an unintentional result, the only time Rav Shimon would say that's mutter is when the result is not definite. But if you're throwing a ball against the wall and you know it's going to hit the switch, then it's usher. That's not davar sheni miskavein. Here too, says the Gemara, no. Rav answered that case of the beged being jammed into the spigot, because everyone agrees that that's usher, because that's going to be a psik reisha v'lo yamos. That's, how can you cut off a chicken's head and it won't die? Of course it's going to be usher. So says the Gemara, not sure that's true. Wait a minute. V'ha'amar Rav Chia bar Ashi amar Rav. What does Rav Chia bar Ashi say in the name of Rav? Halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda. That in certain cases he would actually say the phrase halacha ki Rabbi Yehuda. If he says that in our case, that means that Rav Yehuda and Rav Shimon don't always agree. For Rav Chanan bar Ami amar Shmuel halacha ki Rav Shimon. We see that there's a machlokas about this case that we have at the top of the page about the suchrais, about the beged, about the piece of cloth that we're going to jam into the spigot. There's a machlokas there. So you can't answer that everybody agrees, even Rav Shimon agrees that davar sheni miskavein is going to be chayiv here because it's a psik reisha. No, that's a machlokas, Rav and Shmuel in this case. For Rav Chia bar Avin masnei below gavra, he mentions not name of other people, but just straight up. Rav amar halacha Rabbi Yehuda, Shmuel amar halacha Rav Shimon. So you can't say that this case is according to everybody, which means that we're back to our initial question: is do we say that Rav holds like Rav Shimon, yes or no? Answers the Gemara, El Amar Rabba, Ani ve'arisha bechabura targimna. Rava says, I and the lion in my group, the lion who's sitting in shir. Who's the lion who's sitting in the shir? Umanu, who's the lion? Rav Chia bar Avin. Rav Chia bar Avin was the lion. Rava is saying that about about an Amora who we're less familiar with. That's a very big compliment. He called him a lion. So what's the din? It says that the answer to this case is as follows. The answer to the case about jamming in the beged into the spigot to prevent the wine from leaking is as follows. Halacha ki Reb Shimon, yes, we paskin leniently like Reb Shimon, but v'lav mitaime. We do paskin like him, but not for his reasons. How does it work out? What does the language mean of Reb Shimon but lav mitaime? My halacha ki Reb Shimon but lav mitaime, what does that mean? I lema halacha ki Reb Shimon deshari v'lav mitaime. This is now going back to our case in our Mishnah of the healing, about do we hold like Rav Shimon in regards to the rose oil? If we hold like Rav Shimon, the Rav Shimon savar maseh, Rav Shimon taka holds that it works, but Rav is agreeing that it's mutter to use, but for a different reason, because the Rav savar lo maseh, that this oil does not actually heal anything. So Rav says, yeah, it's mutter, like Rav Shimon paskin, but not for Rav Shimon's reason. Rav would say it's mutter because it doesn't really work so much. But that can't be. Rav can't say that this doesn't work. The Sava Rav lo mase. Rav can't say that this doesn't work. The fact is that we have a Mishnah, Tanaic source, that says that the Bnei Malachim would use this rose oil on their injuries, Michlal de Mase, which implies that Itaka does heal the wound. So Rav can't say that against Rav Shimon. Rav can't say that the rose oil doesn't actually help. Therefore, Ella halacha Rav Shimon deshar v'lav mitame. How would then we explain this line that Rava and Rav Chia bar Avin the Ari shebechabura? How are they explaining this line that the halacha is Rav Shimon deshar v'lav mitame? 4 lines before the end of the perek answers the Gemara. The ilu Rav Shimon savar afal gavda lo shchiach shari. Rav Shimon was of the opinion that even if it wasn't prevalent to use this oil, he would hold that it's still permissible. Masha'en kain v'Rav savar ishchiach in ilolo v'ilo shchiach lo. Rav said, I don't agree with Rav Shimon in that you can use it even if the rose oil is an uncommon use for medication. Rav said you can only use it if it's permissible. And uve asra de Rav shchiach mishcha de varda. And where Rav lived, it was commonplace use it. You walk into Walgreens in Rav's generation, you can buy rose oil as a way to treat your ailing legs. So Rav says, in contrast to Rav Shimon, I'm only going to allow it because it's a prevalent solution to the problem. But had it not been, I would not have allowed, like Rav Shimon did, I would not have allowed. This general discussion poses a problem because Rav is an Amora and Rav Shimon is a Tana. So this is one of those times where we would have to invoke the line that the Gemara uses elsewhere of Rav Tanahu Upalu, that Rav really functions in some ways like a Tana, because he was in, as I've mentioned before, he was in this generation referred to as a Dor HaMa'avar, in the transitioning generation from Tanaim to Amoraim. So sometimes, as we see here, he's arguing even with a Tana. Hadron alach shmona shratzim, hadron alach shmona shratzim, hadron alach shmona shratzim. Mazel tov to each of you on finishing the perek. Let us start another one.
Mazel tov to you.
Thank you for the mazel tov. I appreciate it. All right, let's get started. What about tying knots on Shabbos? There are a lot of applications on this: tying your tie, tying your shoes, tying your gartels, tightening your tzitzis. There are many halachos that apply. So let's get into some of the sugya here. There are some knots where one is going to be chayav mid'oraisa. You can be chayav Karesh for this. It's one of the 39 malachos as listed in the Mishnah and Ayin Gimel, the Mishnah that indicated what all the 39 malachos are. So here are the prototypes. Kesher hagmalim to kesher sapanim. Someone who ties a knot for a camel. We'll see what that means in the Gemara. But kesher sapanim, someone who ties a knot for a boat. Ukeshem shu chayav al kishura. And just like you're going to get an isur deraisa for tying these knots, so too kachu chayav al haterin. If you untie them, that's called matir. And if you untie them, you get an isur deraisa as well. All right. Rav Meir Omer kol kesher shuyachal atir be'achas miyadav. Rav Meir says any knot that can be untied with just one hand, meaning it's a seemingly unsophisticated knot. We'll analyze this in the Gemara as well today. Ein chayav and alav. That's not an itzur d'oraisa. I'll have to see. Let's jump into the Gemara. My kesher agamalim the kesher asapan. What is this knot upon which you are chayav mid'oraisa? The kesher for the camels and the kesher for the boat. Says the Gemara, ilema kitra the katre bizimama. If you want to talk about the rope that you put through the nose ring in the camel, so there's a nose ring already, and you're going to put a leash through that ring that is already in the nose of the animal. Or v'kitra the katre be'isterida, or it's the hook. It's a ring that's on a boat that you would tie the boat against the dock with, but it's the one that you tie on the boat's end. That's not that in that case we say hi kesher she'eno shel kayamahu. When you're putting in those ropes, we'll just use the one for the camel as the example. When you put a rope through the nose ring of a camel, that doesn't last forever. You take it out sometimes. You let it go graze. You let it do whatever it needs to do. Drink at the trough. You're not going to let the rope stay there forever. You take it and you put in the rope and you take it out. So that can't be it. So then what's the chiyuv daraisa? Elakitra dezimama gufe udi isterida gufe. No, you're talking about something that's made out of a knot. Let's say that you make a nose ring out of fabric, and you put it in the nose and it stays there forever. That's a kesher shel kema. Same with the boat. That's going to be an isur d'oraisa. Says the Gemara, boy ravach devoy achve demar acha. The Gemara here asks a question. Aniba the Reb Meir Mahu. What if you tie a bow according to Reb Meir? What did Reb Meir say? Reb Meir said that if you can untie something with one hand, that you're not chayav. So here's the Gemara's question. Do we say literally that when he used this language in the Mishnah that he was being literal, that as long as with one hand you can untie the knot, therefore you're not chayav, and therefore v'hanami yachol atiro, it's a simple bow, like a simple bow that we would tie our shoes with. Or dilma, or perhaps no. When Rav Meir said in the Mishnah that you can untie it with one hand, it was just whether or not it was a gloi milsa that it would reveal to me the time of the Rav Meir mishum dilbo mehadik, because it's not a tight knot. Or v'hamahadik, and here it is a tight knot, so therefore you'd be chayav. Take it. We don't know really what Rav Meir was saying. Do we take Rav Meir's words at face value and say that because I can untie it with one hand, therefore you're not chayav? Or do we say no, Rav Meir was just giving a sampling of his deeper idea of how tight is the knot? So that we don't know the answer to in regards to the sheet of Rav Meir. That brings us to the next Mishnah, 2/3 of the way down on Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis. Let's go. There are also some knots that you're not going to be chayav on, like these ones that are of biblical nature, like the ones by the camels and the ones by the sapanim, which we just defined as the actual ring is made out of some type of cloth that you put through the nose and tie that knot, or the actual ring that's on a boat upon which you would tie knot. So that ring itself would be the Isur D'Oraisa, but there are some cases that are going to be only an Isur D'Rabbanan. And then the Gemara jumps to things that are perfectly mutter, and the Gemara is going to ask about this. It says the Mishnah, Kosheres Isha Miftach Chaluka, a woman is allowed to close the opening of her clothing, seemingly obvious. The Gemara is going to ask, V'chute Svacha, she can cover her hair, the inner layer that she would use to cover her hair, for it to be appropriately tsanua. V'shal piskia, this is a girdle, some type of garment that a woman would wear underneath her clothes. Uritzios min al sandal, one is allowed to tie their shoes and their sandals. When those yain v'shemen, they would have these like leather flasks, and they would tie them closed of water, of wine and of oil. Uktera shal basar, sometimes they tie on the top of a lid. All of those are mutter. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Omer kishurin lifnei behema bishvil shalotete. You can also tie a knot. And presumably that this is the type of thing that would kind of close off the parking lot. It would close off the pen to make sure that the animals wouldn't leave. You're not tying the animal themselves. You're just kind of closing off the gate by tying some kinds of knots. Asks the Gemara, hold on one second, Agufa Kasha. Your first two lines of the Mishnah were contradictory in nature. The first one said as follows, Amris, you said, you said that there are some scenarios which are not going to be on the same biblical level as the knots that you tied for the camel and for the boats. Implying that there will be some scenarios that don't have a biblical isser of a chiyuv, but rather they do have an isser derabanan. And then what do? You skipped over all the rabbinic things and you go to that which is mutter. You left out the obvious. Why are you not referencing in our Mishnah the rabbinic cases? So you said, the story goes like this. The Mishnah says, yeah, there are some things that are only rabbinically prohibited. But let's not talk about that. Let's just go to the ones that are totally mutter. So the Gemara says, what are you doing? You skipped what you implied that you were going to talk about. Says the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom, Kuf Yud Aleph from the base. Hachi Kamar, this is what the Mishnah meant to read. Yesh ksharm she'ein chayav alen kikesher agmal and ruch kesher sapan. Like the Mishnah opened. Umayni, what are those cases that are not like the kesher of the gemalim and sapanim, the ones that are not isuri d'oraisa, but that are isuri d'rabanan? Answers the Gemara, top of Kuf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, kitra de kitra bizamama. These are the things that you would put into the nose ring, the kitra be'isterida, or the one that you put into the ring that was already there on the boat. And Rashi here highlights why this is problematic. He says that sometimes you might put in that leash and you'll leave it in for too long, and that is an Isser D'Rabbanan, to tie it in the first place with the risk of it lasting too long. Because if it lasts too long, then maybe that's a Kesher Shel Kayama and an Isser D'Oraisa. So you can't do a Maisa where there's a risk that it's going to lead to an Isser D'Oraisa. That's the Isser D'Rabbanan that's being mentioned over here. Second line, Chiyuva Hudoleka, there's no Isser D'Oraisa here. Ha Isura Ika, there is an Isser D'Rabbanan. And then, just to finish off the Gemara smoothly, what does our Mishnah mean? That a woman is allowed to close off her outer garment by tying a knot. So now the Gemara, so we just answered the strangeness of our Mishnah, that our Mishnah said Isser D'Oraisa and skipped over Isur D'Rabbanan and spoke about dinim that are motor lechatchila. The Gemara answers, you're right. The Mishnah should have included a few things there. Ask the Gemara 4 lines down, Kuf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. Maftech Chaluka, a woman's allowed to close her shirt. Yeah, pshita. That's good. A woman should be tsanua. So if she has a tie from one piece of the garment to the other, she's allowed to close it to make sure that her clothes stay closed. Lo pshita, what are you talking about? So says the Gemara, lo tzricha, no. The reason why we needed to teach this is isla tredashe. The reason why we needed to teach this din and why it wasn't so pashut is if she were to have two ties, one here and one here, just a couple of inches apart, let's say, where really technically only one of the ties is necessary to keep her dress closed properly. Ma'udetema, what might you have thought? Because one of them works, the other one is irrelevant, so you shouldn't be able to tie it. Kamash malan, that's not the case, that both of them are valuable. The Ritva asks, I don't understand. Your question was very good. If you have two ties, let's say they're 1 inch apart, just as a design, and both of them are tied, why is she allowed to tie both? That should be usher, because you only need one. So the Ritva was bothered by that. So he says the reason why is because we don't know which one she's going to tie this time or which one she's going to untie. It was unclear which one she would definitely use or not use. Maybe she'll only untie one and slip out of the garment. We don't know how she was going to use it. So that's how the Ritva answered this particular question. The next two dots, what about her hair covering? She's allowed to tie her hair covering down. Think more of a bonnet. She would wear something on her head and she would tie it down in a way, and in a bonnet, that might be the most simple way to conceive of this. Says the Gemara, pshita, that's of course, she should be allowed to tie it down so it can stay on her head. Says the Gemara, lo tzricha de revicha la. You might have argued that if it's the revicha, that she left some space, namely she didn't tie it very tightly, we might have thought that it would have been problematic. Ma'udetema, maybe you would have argued mishlaf shalfala, she would have just slipped out of her hair covering, and therefore she would have left it tied and it should have been usher. Kamash malan, the isha chasa al saira, that a woman is very careful about her hair, and umishra shariala, and she will definitely untie it. Lidugma, although not a perfect application. If a woman's wearing a sheitel with clips in it, she's going to undo the clips before she takes off her sheitel. She's not going to want to tear out her hair. She's going to be careful about it. So the Gemara is saying something similar, that because a woman is sensitive about her hair, so if she's wearing a bonnet, she's going to be careful to untie that bonnet in order to take it off, and that is what is going on here in our Mishnah. Ritzuas minal, the sandal, the straps that one uses to tie on their shoes or their sandals. Here the Gemara is going to present a case. In the times of the Amoraim are quoting from the times of the Tanaim. Itmar is always Amoraim. Hitir ritzuas minal, the sandal. You untie the strap of your shoe or your sandal. Three-way machlokes Tanaim. Tani chada chayv chatas. One says you violated an isur daraisa for untying your shoe or sandal. The Tanya idach pater avalasar. The second brisa says it's only an isur darabanan. The Tanya idach, and the third one said motor lechatchila. So it says the Gemara, first of the longest lines, kasha min ala minal, kasha sandal sandal. Because against our Mishnah said that that was among the list of things that's permissible. So these three shitas don't work. How do we get this to fit with our Mishnah? Our Mishnah says both minal and sandal is mutter, and here we see three different shitas. So kasha minal minal, kasha sandal sandal. Second of the longest lines, minal minal lo kasha. In regards to the shoes themselves, we'll separate out the shoes from the sandals. In regards to the shoes themselves, lo kasha. The three brisas are three different cases, and therefore no machlokes at all. Hadik tani chayv chatas b'deushkefi. When do we say that untying a shoe is going to be problematic? That's b'deushkefi, but when it's a particular knot on the shoe that's a kesher shel kayama. It's not meant to be untied, and you untied it. You shouldn't have done that. It's not the regular lace that you're using. It's a different part of the shoe that was being tied down. The dugma, untying one of the stitches in your shoes. It's meant to stay there forever. You untied it. That's an isur d'oraisa chayav. Pater avalasar, what's that case? That's b'derabbanan. That's when the way the rabbis tie their shoes. Rashi here, 1.5 inches up above where we are. Dibur hamaskal b'derabbanan. Shekosher and saviv ragleihem, when they put it around their feet, ain't kosher b'dochak. They don't tie it so tight. Shepe'amim shecholzo kshehu kosher. Sometimes kosher, he'll just slip his feet out. It's a slip-on. So they tie it in a little bit. They don't have to waste all the time to be mevatel Torah to tie and untie their shoes. They would slip right out of it. So that's the second case. Hold on 1 second, please. That what is the case of mutter in the Tanaim? That is when the people of Bnei Mechuzah, who are very makbid on their dress, they always tie their shoes tightly. Yes, Rabbi, what was your question?
Kohanim also, when they go up to Tocha, they don't have to touch their feet to take off the shoes.
Could be if they tie their shoes that way. Could be. Yeah. The real application here is if a person on Shabbos morning ties their shoes in a way where they can easily slip out of it, that could be usher. because then you didn't untie it for the shear of time. And this is discussed in the Rishonim and brought in the Gemara in many places and brought in the Shulchan Aruch as well, whether or not we say that the period of time is 24 hours, which is considered kayama, or is it a week? So that's a discussion in the poskim. So if you tie your shoes Shabbos morning, you tie your tie Shabbos morning, and you don't untie it, that's halachically problematic. So either tie your tie before Shabbos and never untie it, but don't tie it on Shabbos and never untie it. That's halachically asur. That's not allowed. Let's continue. 3 lines down in the wide lines, we answered up how the shoes work out because we explained each case is different. The one case was Mr. Derasa B'Ushkafi. The second one was the way the rabbis tied their shoes. The third one was B'nei Mechuzah. All 3 different cases, no contradiction in the brises. Sandal nami sandal lokasya. The issue by the sandals is also not contradictory. Similar answer. In regards to the sandals, a tie is a traveler or a merchant or an Arab, different ways to translate the word. And there it was the katre ushkafi, where the knot was a permanent knot, same as we saw by the shoes. Pater avalasar b'dechumrasa. When we say pater avalasar, that was b'dechumrasa, the katre inu, is that you tied, the lace wasn't, Rashi explains this, we're just going to save the time. Rashi explains that the lace wasn't actually affixed to the shoe. You just tied something around the whole shoe and around your foot. So that's what Rashi says here. When is it that a sandal is mutzor lechatchila to untie on Shabbos? That is when 2 different people use the shoes. You share the shoes. Twin boys, same shoe size, whoever they are, they're sharing shoes. Father, son is the example here in the Gemara. Keder Rabbi Yehuda. What did Rabbi Yehuda say? The Rabbi Yehuda, he had a pair of sandals. Zimnin denafik be'yu. Sometimes he would wear them. Zimnin nafik be'yanuke. Sometimes his progeny would wear it. So because the shoes are worn by multiple people, so then it's mutar lechatchila to untie that shoe because people are going to use them. You can tie them, you can untie them. It's no problem. Other people just grab the shoes and wear them. I stayed in someone's house once. They had a collection of slippers at the front of their house. They didn't want you to wear their shoes. So you didn't know what slippers you were going to wear. You just took the slippers. So if there were ties on them, it would be totally mutter to apply that. That's what this Bryce answers here. Also, this case was brought about the sandals. We don't know exactly which case. Is it the case about the sandals or the shoes? But basically, this case of hitir ritzuas minal b'sandal that our Gemara opens with at the 2 dots, 3 lines above the thicker lines. This was brought before Abaye, and he was asked the question. He instantly said, like the brisa that says you're chayav achatas. So the person asking said, "Wait a minute, Amar le." Hashta patra valasar kakashali. I only came here to ask you, is there an isur derabanan? Chayav chatas kamersli. You're answering the patisura deraisa. So says back the posek. Abai says, wait a minute, my time. Why? What were you talking? What was the case? I think I might have missed something in the shaila. So the Gemara responds, Amar le mishum de bechol nami zimnin nithikna be'ana zimnin nafik be'inuka. Sometimes I wear the shoes. Sometimes my nephew wears the shoes. Sometimes my son wears the shoes. So Abai says, oh, I didn't realize all of the facts. So his psak went from you could be chayiv skila to absolutely mutter. So the posek has to make sure that he has all the questions. Yesterday, somebody asked me a question. I wasn't sure what the answer was. I thought I knew the answer. I was wrong. I called the posek, and he said, you looked at the question wrong, Phil. You forgot to ask a critical aspect of the question. So without having all the right information, without being given all the facts, you can't pass in a shaila correctly. That's what happened here. And thank God the sugya got clarified here. The Gemara continues right halfway down. Rabbi Yirmiyah habaka'azil basred Rabbi Abo b'Karmelis. Rabbi Yirmiyah was walking after Rabbi Abo b'Karmelis. Ifsik ritzua de sandale, and one of their shoes, the strap tore. Amar le, my ne'avile, what should we do? Amar le, shkol gemi lach, go find a reed, go find a branch of some kind, and you can use it. But it has to be, first of all, the chazir l'maychal behim. It can't be muksa. It has to be something that you could technically feed to an animal. Otherwise, it's muksa. You certainly can't tear it off a tree. You got to find a branch that you're allowed to use. Otherwise, it's not permissible. The karachiluya, and you should use it to tie your shoe back on your foot. It's not a shoe, actually. It's a sandal. Abaye havakakame de Rav Yosef if sikle ritzua. Abaye was in front of Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef was a generation earlier, the 3rd century of Amoraim. Abaye was the 4th. So he was talking to Rav Yosef in the previous door, and he said, Rabbi, the strap of my shoe tore. What should I do? Amarle, my yavile, what should I do? Amarle shavke, leave your shoe right where it is. So says the Gemara, I don't understand these 2 stories. Why do you give me different answers? Why did the Rabbanim, is there a machlokas between these Amoraim? I don't understand. My shna mi the Rabbi Yirmiyah. Why are you giving a different answer than from what Rabbi Yirmiyah gave? Answers the Gemara Hasam lo mintar in the Carmelis, which was where the first case took place. In the Carmelis, there was no protection that you wouldn't lose your shoe forever. Someone could steal it, someone could take it. But here, Mintar, in the second case, it wasn't in a carmelis. So now you have a problem. Your shoe is muksa. Your shoe is useless. It's no longer the din of a beged. It no longer has a din of a kli. So it says the Gemara, why? V'hamanahu, it's still a shoe. How do we know that it's still a shoe? Because their shoes weren't built like ours. Small. Their shoes, you could interchange them from right to left. It was a pad that you would step on and you tie it around your foot, but they were interchangeable. They weren't carved out with like a little, like our shoes. They're not like that. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. Why, Rav Yosef, did you paskin that even though it's mintar, even though it's in a protected, who cares? But it still shouldn't be muksa. You can always interchange your shoes right to left. So it should still have the din of, just to have the din of being a kli. So it says the Gemara, Amar lei mi the commentary to Rabbi Yochanan aliba Rabbi Yehuda shmamin alacha Rabbi Yehuda. Because in the following brisa, Rabbi Yochanan paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, so therefore we hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Let's see what is going on. What is this din of Rabbi Yochanan that follows the shita of Rabbi Yehuda? We're 2/3 of the way down on Kuf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. Let's go. Maihi, what's the case of Rabbi Yehuda? Titania, the Brisa writes, Sandal shenifsigu shtei aznav, the two flaps of the shoes that would overlap on the top of your foot, o shtei tarsiosav, the parts of the shoe that hold on the laces, o shenital kol kaf shelo, or the whole sole of the shoe falls off. The din is tahor. Now, when we say tahor in the world of Tumah v'Tahor, that means that it's not mekabel Tumah because it's no longer a kli. Namely, the shoe is so dilapidated that it's not even a shoe anymore, halachically speaking. It doesn't have the din of a beged, it's not makabel tumah. However, if, says the Brisa, in the name of the Tanakama, if it's achas miyaz, if only one flap tore off, or achas mitarsios, if only one of the laces fell off, or shenital rov hakaf, there's still some of the sole left over, shalo, the din is tameh, it can be makabel tumah, namely it's still considered a shoe. That's the sheet of the Tanakama. Rav Yehuda Omer, nifseka pnimis tameh, if the inner part of the shoe tears off, then tameh, then it's still going to be considered a shoe. However, hachitzona tahor, if the outer part of the shoe falls off, so then we would say that it's no longer considered a shoe. Now, let's see what Rav Yochanan has to say about this brisa. Remember, Rav Yochanan, 2nd century of the Amoraim, looking back at this brisa, what does he say? Amar ula v'itema Rabba bar Chana Amar Rav Yochanan, Kimachlokas le'inyan tuma, kach machlokas le'inyan Shabbos, aval lo le'inyan chalitza. This is what Rav Yochanan said. So let's follow along here. Let's get a good tfisa on this. Just like there's a machlokas in regards to tuma, whatever the machlokas is there, it's equivalent to Shabbos, but different than chalitza. So what do we have? Tuma and Shabbos are the same, and chalitza is different. So it says the Gemara, Behadinan, but let's analyze this. Rav Yochanan aliba deman. Was Rav Yochanan's comment talking about the Tanakama, or was it talking about Rav Yehuda? So it says the Gemara, Ilema aliba derabanan, if you want to say that Rav Yochanan's comment was talking about the rabbi's sheet of the Tanakama, but then midile inyan tuma manahave, if in regards to tuma the shoe is considered a shoe, so then inyan Shabbos nami manahave, because as mentioned Shabbos and tuma will always be the same. But then chalitza is different. Avalo lechalitza delav manahu. But then it implies that if you hold like the Rabbanan, if Rav Yochanan is speaking on the sheet of the Rabbanan, it implies that in regards to chalitza that the shoe would no longer be a shoe, because Rabbi Yochanan said that the shoe is not going to be equivalent to the world of Tuma and the world of Shabbos. So says the Gemara, that can't be. It can't be that Rabbi Yochanan is talking about the Tanakama, because if you say what you say, Rabbi Yochanan, about the Rabbanan, then it implies that the shoe would not be a shoe in regards to Chalitza, but that's not true. 7 lines from the bottom, V'atnan, Chalta shel small, biyamin, Chalitza sakshera. If you switch shoes in regards to Chalitza, it's still kasher, namely, the shoe is still a kli. So you can't say that the shoe is not a kli in the world of Rav Yochanan according to the Rabbanan. So therefore the Gemara tries the other option. Ve'ela, 6 lines from the bottom. Ve'ela aliba de Rav Yehuda. Must be that Rav Yochanan is talking about the sheet of Rav Yehuda. Midile inyan tuma lav monahu, that if when the outer part of the shoe falls off, as Rabbi Yehuda indicated in our Mishnah, that the shoe is not a shoe, and because Rabbi Yochanan said that Shabbos and Tuma are the same, then in Shabbos nami lav manahu, then if it tears the outer part of the shoe, it's also not going to be a kli. But it's going to be different than chalitza, aval lo lechalitza de manahu. But even though by Tuma and by Shabbos it is a kli, by chalitza it isn't a kli, then by chalitza it will be a kli. Amar, asked the Gemara, Amar de Amrinan Chalza Shel Smo B'Yamin Chalitza Kshera. When is it that we said that if you switch shoes, the chalitza is kosher? Hecha de Lemilse Manahu. That's only it's true if the shoe is actually a shoe. But hacha here, when the outer strap of the shoe fell off, Lemilse Lav Manahu, for walking purposes, it's no longer considered a shoe. So if that's the case, then how can Rav Yochanan's shita fit even according to Rav Yehuda? So no matter how we try to figure out Rabbi Yochanan within our Mishnah, it's difficult to understand. He doesn't fit according to the Rabbanan, and he seemingly doesn't fit according to Rabbi Yehuda. So answers the Gemara, 2 lines from the bottom, getting to the end of today. Le'olam aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. Really, he does take a hold like the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. Ema v'chein lechalitza, but there needs to be a change in the language where we add in and similarly by chalitza. We correct Rabbi Yochanan's shita. V'al-kamash mulan, and here's how we would learn the sugya. T'chi amrinan chalitza shel smol b'shel yamin chalitza sakshera. That when we say in regards to chalitza that switching the right shoe for the left is kosher, that's true. Heicha, turning to the top of Kuf Yud Beis and Mud Beis, that's Heicha de Lamil Semanu, that in regards to Chalitza, it still has the din of a shoe. Aval Hacha, but in our case, where Rav Yehuda highlighted that if the outer part of the shoe were to be broken, it's not a shoe. Aval Hacha Lemilse Lav Manahu. Then we would not consider it to be a kli. Tomorrow, we're going to pick up right on this idea about the sheet of Rav Yochanan, about Umiyam or Rav Yochanan. Hachi, did Rav Yochanan really say that? We just had to pick a reasonable stopping point. So we'll stop right here, wishing you each a beautiful night and looking forward to continue learning, not tomorrow night actually, but on Motzei Shabbos with another blot and a half, which will bring us to the bottom of Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. Have a beautiful
Have a good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.